Thank you for coming along today. As Andy starts it up, I'm Mark Nichols, Creative Director at WMH&I. And I'm here to talk to you today about finding the magic in every brief. That's the computer. Oh, go big to go forward. And I really believe that creativity is a magical force, and I'll talk to you a bit about that and why I think it is a magical force. It can make problems disappear before your very eyes. That's an incredible, the best magic trick out there. Surely it has to be the great disappearing act. It can bring brands back to life from the dead. It can make the invisible visible. Wow, incredible magic. It can make the impossible possible, and it can make objects shapeshift. It can be used to both shock or entertain an audience, much like a magic performance. But like magic, an incredible power of creativity is only possessed by a rare few. It's a difficult thing, and that's what makes it magic, and it's what makes it alluring that not everybody has the special powers, and hopefully everyone in the room here today has a bit of that magic, but I'm going to try and talk through that and see how you can bring more of the magic to work. So I thought I'd start with my own experience of magic and when I first discovered it. So I come from a family of teachers and scientists. There is no creative blood in my family whatsoever. There was no magic powers in my blood at all. However, a step-granddad was an amazing matchstick model maker. And it absolutely fascinated me from a really early age. He actually lived in his caravan. And I'd see him make these models, and for me it was like magic for the first time. It was like someone had a power that I'd never experienced within my world or my family before. So it was this first time, it must have been like between the ages of 2 and 4, this stuff was happening. I was like, oh my God, there is something different out there, and someone possesses a skill that I've never seen. And I think that started this fascination with magic and creativity and how it can just brighten up our worlds. And I think back to being a kid, and there was packaging around me that was different to anything else. You had matey bubble bath. It still exists today, but it wasn't just a pack, it wasn't just a bubble bath, it was a set of characters, it was a bath time toy. It had a different reason for being beyond a piece of packaging. Jif Lemon did exactly what it says on the tin, or rather the lemon, and cereal time, breakfast time, it was packaging that was repurposed, and they had games and entertainment, and it felt like a magical experience, and brands were delivering this magic to my world, and I can remember this stuff, it's embedded in my memory from childhood. So I started to be aware of this magic that was happening around me. I remember brands on TV, seemingly, if you could dream it, you could make it happen. And me and my brother, probably quite sadly, used to like guess the brand on the advert break. But the stuff that was happening in advertising was as good, if not better, than what was happening in the cartoons that were following on from that. This is an ad for Crunchy, Get the Friday Feeling. We don't have sound today, that's fine, because it's the visuals that we're looking at. But you can make chocolate become absolutely anything. If you could dream it, you could make it happen. And for me, that was just fantastical and something that, we hadn't really seen this type of stuff before, in the 80s and 90s. So really coming to life, and then just started to be aware that someone's making this stuff. There's a magician behind this, and I was it started to become really interesting on my radar. I've always been fascinated with optical illusion and how graphics and visual language can literally warp our minds. So I don't know how you guys are perceiving that, but the grey lines on there do not look straight, they do not look parallel, but they are. They're 100% straight rules, and the placement of those black and white squares are making it all go skew-if. So apologies if you get the epileptic warning out there now. This version of it, you would have seen before, an incredibly low-res version, but those black dots that probably look like they're appearing in the white dots, they aren't there. This is not an animation, that's a static JPEG of black and white images. That's magic, something's coming alive, there's a trick there happening right before our very eyes. I love Escher, and I love art that has a detail and a craft to it, but I was always fascinated with the metamorphosis of going from one thing to another. There's something transforming and changing again before our eyes, and it can make the impossible possible. You know, that shouldn't be a reality in that drawing, but we can start to create something that shouldn't really be there. And I was obsessed with ads like this. There's gravity's disappeared, and all of a sudden someone's got this superpower, this magical power, and they've stuck a car to a billboard, and they're comparing it to a super glue. And it's like, that's magic. I've never seen that before. There's a power at force in its creativity as well as that lack of gravity. And you know, the ability to make something appear before your very eyes, or make the invisible visible. So this is actually a poster from my third year lecturer at Norwich Art School. He's no longer working there. This was a brief that he got at the RCA for Beyond Illustrations. I haven't revealed the answer yet, but the answer is there. So how do you get this idea of going beyond illustration? Like the shadow, and that person suddenly comes to life, and it has a different way of being. That's magic. Like something's happened, and we've made that invisible idea in there visible for the world to see. And it is that magic of creativity that everyone possesses, to see that and to bring that to life. And this obsession grew, and then I just found myself in these magical worlds, and I've always felt that. And it was from the classroom, the art class at school. This room that you're in today, there's like magic things happening there. And it's always the place that I felt most at home. As I say, coming from a family of, you know, intellectuals and academics, it was creativity that like excited me. It's the world that I wanted to be in. So I actually trawled through some old art pieces before this. So the top one is me age 4 drawing a lightning storm, and then you can see me honing some drawing skills at GCSE level. In looking to experiment with the way that things can appear, you know, metamorphosising that apple in a way. Honing that, the artistry and getting into this world of creativity, I just loved it. The darkroom, it was another place that just fascinated me, and I don't think anything's come close to this day of the magic of seeing something ghostly appear on that paper in a solution tray in a darkroom. So you've got your photograph, you put it through, it doesn't happen anymore, you just chuck it in the machine and you don't see any of the magic happen, but in the dark, seeing these images appear before my eyes, it just felt like something that excited me. So a really magical space. In the dark, I just had a different atmosphere. It's like dark magic was happening in there. It was, you know, a really interesting, different atmosphere in space. And it carries on to this day. This is the studio at WMH&I. It's a really magic place. I love what I do, and I'm so glad that I can stand here and talk to you about that. We go into the studio. This is our shop front. We've got a little window display that we bring to life with a range of different displays. There's a primary school just up the road, and they're just fascinated by our ever-changing window display. We've won a few awards for the creativity and the magic over the years, but we really try and make that place an exciting, interesting place to go. None of you in here are pursuing an office job, you know, in banking. You're in a world of creativity. The spaces you get to work are incredibly inspirational and fascinating, and I look forward to going to work every day. It's not because I'm a workaholic. I take my time, I have my breaks from it, but I never worry about going to work because it feels like a magic laboratory that we get to go to each day. As I mentioned, I love my job, and I think pursue that passion. I feel like I'm doing my hobby for a living still, and you know, if you can get paid to do your hobby, you're in a good place. So we talk about magic, but the rule of the magic circle is to oppose the willful disclosure of magical secrets other than to magicians or bona fide students and historians of magic. But as you are all bona fide students of magic, I thought it was within my right to share some tricks of the trade. So, there is latent magic in every brief. This isn't our work of highlighting grave, it isn't our work, I'm using some other people's to make my points. But big or small, that brief, down to a little flash or a little sticker on a piece of fruit, up to a big global brand identity, there is magic in there. Grey Columbia doing their fruit stickers that extend the life of that fruit and the uses that you can use it for to reduce food waste. To FedEx, if you've not seen the arrow where have you been, you know, finding that wonderful bit of magic within the logo. But I preach this at work all of the time. Whatever that brief is, if it sounds dry, it ain't. If it feels like a small opportunity, it isn't. There's magic waiting to be discovered in any brief. There is no such thing as a boring brief, and it's our jobs as creatives to find and see that magic. And I will talk to you about a few tricks as to how you might observe it. One thing I'm actually talking about, there's a lot in the studio at the moment. I think people get caught up with the way that things look and the art direction and trawling through existing imagery, and they try and bring that into an idea. Think about what it says before what it looks like. That's one of the best bits of advice that I can give. If you get caught in the way it looks straight away, you haven't done the thinking on what it says and what it communicates, and it's what it communicates is where the magic will occur. But some top tricks within the work. So trick one, look at things differently. So this is a project, it's actually me on this one, not all of the work that you see. This is when I was more on the tools, more than the creative directing. We were working with a set of flower growers that had the ability to problem solve and come up with a range of solutions for big flower growers, essentially. And we wanted to bring their stories to life, and we just looked at flowers differently. And that is where the magic happened in this brief. So shooting the petals to be the exclamation marks, other flowers that start to look like brains when we were talking about applying their knowledge. An orchid looked at through different eyes can become a moth. So look at the world differently. It's a trick on how you can bring that magic to life. Trick two, the visual metaphor. This is actually a student project that I did. I'm going to ask for a bit of audience participation. So come on, help me out here. These are 3 images, and they became pieces of signage for the brewery, actually. Can anyone in there tell me what you think the visual metaphor might be for the rooms that these creatures represented? The bottom one's the easiest one.
The toilet?
The toilet. Any suggestions on the others?
Something with knowledge?
Chat. It's now time for you guys to hone your box of tricks. You've got to get it out there and share it with the world. And I've got a few tips and observations for how you might start to do that. But your portfolio, your body of work should be full of this magic, and it's what's going to grab people's attention and hopefully propel you into a career that you can love as much as I do. And I know that a lot of the other people I work with still absolutely thrive on what they do. So within your portfolio, ideas. I know Andy will stress it with you. I can't tell you how important it is. It is what people are still looking for. I suggest 4 to 6 of your very best projects. We quite often see students come out with 3, or sometimes even less. It's not enough. You have to have at least 4 or 5, I would say, different projects in there. It depends on where you're going. You might want to tailor that to be more packaging. You might want to become a packaging designer. It's not like that at ours. We're a true multidisciplinary branding agency. I think for me it keeps it way more interesting. You can get to work on any different business sector, any different channel. I think a label versus a big out-of-home campaign versus a big 3D environment or piece of digital, they're just another canvas and another site for your ideas and the magic to come to life. But if you're going to do a multidisciplinary branding agency, make sure there's 4 to 5 projects feel varied in subject matter and the discipline in which you bring them to life. Put in a simple explanation of the work. Nobody has the time in the creative business to sit and read an essay on every project. Keep it short. It's actually a really good skill for you to hone your thinking in the work anyway. What was the brief? We call it the brief in brief. Keep that short. keep down to 2 sentences, and what is your solution in a single sentence if you can. You can talk through the extra bit. If you don't know what it is in a single sentence, you probably haven't distilled that thinking well enough. Customise your folio, I mentioned that. Don't just chuck in a packaging full portfolio if you're speaking to people that do comms and print. Really think about where you want to go and work and how you might tailor your portfolio. Proofread again. And show a distilled process of one project. I think it is nice to see some of those inner workings and that early sketch stage of your thinking. The final article always looks great, but actually what were your 3 different ways in, and try and present that in a really interesting way. And finally, really stand out. There are an awful lot of students that graduate every year. The competition, don't be fooled, is really fierce. I can't remember what the stats are. It used to be about 15,000 students graduated in the world of sort of branding and graphics. Every single year there definitely are that amount of jobs that are just waiting to be lapped up out there. You've got to stand out and have something different. So these are really nice examples of previous employees and current employees that brought a little bit of something different and a bit more magic to their portfolio. So this was a previous design director, now a freelancer, fantastic illustrator and creative mind. He created a whole world out of mini matchboxes, and he just used to leave them around London and photograph them, you know, the little matchbox around the Olympics and the table tennis. Like, this wasn't a project, a uni project, perhaps something different. He clearly loved what he did and would bring those to life. This is our current design director, fantastic lino artist, and has a folio full of amazing prints that he does, as well as the great conceptual thinking that he brings to us every day. You mentioned Chris Rebay, I think, earlier on. This is actually Chris when he graduated. He was doing some screen printing. He did this little Henry print, so Henry the Hoover and Henry VIII. He loved Paul Smith, so we sent it to him. And Paul Smith wrote it back in the top there, and he's now got it hanging in his toilet, Paul Smith's toilet, which is like great. You know, it's an extra bit of magic, tailoring where he wants his work to be seen. You know, what have you got extra that stands out from the set of projects? And finally, think beyond the PDF and the website. We get sent so many PDFs. You might have a website which you can't dictate how anyone's going to navigate through your work. You've got to stand out and do something different. Great work will be seen, and people will want to talk to you, but if there's like a top 5 set of agencies that you really want to go and work for, target them. What are you going to do to stand out and get noticed by them? And one of my very favourite examples was somebody wanted to get their foot through the door in the advertising agency, so they cast their foot and they sent it to all of the top agencies that they did to get their foot in the door. I can guarantee that they got the interview at those 5 different places. And it does happen occasionally still that someone might have a really great name, surname to work with. They might do a bit of personal branding, a really targeted bit of communication that says, I've thought about your agency and I would love the opportunity to work there. Tailor something to it. It will get you noticed. It will at least get you an interview. So that is world magic and creativity as a magic force. For those that don't know us, if you want to follow us, it'd be great if you did. Keep in touch with all of the other stuff that's happening. Alice is here with me today, our creative research. It'd be great to talk to some of you after this. Alice is also in charge of our lunch and learn sessions, so probably at least once a month we get somebody interesting to come into the studio, talk about their trade. It might be a semiotician, it might be a psychologist, it might be a photographer. And we broadcast those online, so tune in, follow us, join our lunch and learns. We'd be great to talk to some of you, and please send in your own box of magic tricks.
Fantastic. Magic.